It is time to update the weapon tier list. I'm almost at 150 hours. I'm about to complete my second veteran playthrough. I did upgrade most of the weapons. I ran all of them and I looked at all their upgrade trees. I tested breakpoints on a lot of the weapons against exosuits in the endgame areas, and I actually have the, as of 1.0.3, the weapon stats from that Reddit post. I actually know the updated as of 1.2. All right, so the weapon post that has the stats, I can show it right here. There it is. I will be referring to this. I'll have the link in the description. So now we have the actual stats, and I've actually tested a lot of the breakpoints, and thankfully a lot of people gave me feedback on a lot of the weapons, and I was able to evaluate specific weapons more to test them to see how good they are. All right, so for the tiering, the way I want to tier these weapons, so this is for veteran mode. I want for S tier, if it doesn't one-tap Exos with any ammo type, so like if it one-taps with armor piercing, I'll count that because typically you can get the armor piercing rounds. If it one-taps with base ammo, that's even better because then you get higher durability. But also certain guns have other features that could arguably put them in S tier with not allowing the one-tapping of Exos. So some guns are like 2 to 3 tap Exos but have like other features that could make them an S tier. But big stats, one-tapping Exos, good against mutants, typically that's what's an S tier. A tier, great damage and stats, things that maybe are really good against mutants but kind of bad or like okay or decent against humans. Like if it's really good at something but kind of average at something else, that's like A tier. B tier, it's just like a good general weapon you can run. It doesn't really excel at anything, but it's more than serviceable. It's like decent. It's definitely not the best of its category, but it's like fairly good. And then C is just like you can use it, and it's not really, it's probably like towards the worst side. Like it's not as good as like most other side grades or options. But if you want it and you really like it, you can use it, and you should be able to beat the game on better, and it'll just be harder. And then D, bad stats and limited, meaning that there's just strictly better things. There's no reason to run this at all. All right, so starting off, we have Skiff's pistol. So Skiff's pistol is way overhyped, I'll be honest. A lot of people treat this thing like it's S tier. I don't know that it's S tier. Here, let me like get that. There we go. Frame it nice for you. I don't know that it's S tier. So in order for me to consider Skiff's pistol S tier, it would have to do more than what it does. It doesn't one-tap endgame enemies. It just doesn't. It has good damage with armor-piercing rounds. Its range is really limited. It has low weight because it's a quest item and it's never supposed to be removed from your inventory. As of 1.1.2, I still think it prevents burrs from ripping it out of your hands, but it doesn't have the damage output to kill them. Like when you shoot a burr, it pops an invincibility shield. So you're not going to kill a burr in a single burst. And some of these weapons can do that in that time window, which kind of outclasses Skiff's pistol for that purpose in a huge way. Honestly, I just think it's B tier. It's really good for early game, and in middle game with armor piercing rounds, it maintains the ability to one tap. But once you get into like late middle game and late game, you're just looking at health sponges that have way too high of armor for this thing to punch through, and getting multiple headshots when several enemies are aim punching you and shooting you at different ranges is just not it for veteran mode. The PTM is literally just Skiff's pistol but worse, and there's no advantage to it at all. It has weight, it has the same upgrade tree, it doesn't have any stat changes. As far as I know, there's no uniques. We're just evaluating the base weapons for now. But there's really no reason to run this because Skiff's pistol is literally this, but better in every way. The UDP is usable. It's basically a worse version of Skiff's pistol that can get higher ammo capacity. And it can also, it has 2 variants, but we're not really evaluating the variants. But those variants are honestly not that good in veteran mode. But it has lower base damage. It has a base damage of, I think, 24. Let's see, let's find our pistols. Yeah, UDP, oh, sorry, 25. Base damage 25, Skiff's pistol's base damage is 30. Its penetration value is 20, and it has a hard time punching through armor and one tapping, even in middle game. So it just falls off. It needs to have higher base damage, and it's weird because it shoots 45 ACP, which should be, better. I think it's ACP, isn't it? But yeah, it shoots 45 caliber, so it should be higher damage than the 9mm, but for some reason it's not. All right, so the APSB, I think it's either high A or low S. All right, so the APSB, the big advantage of this, I guess I'll consider it low S. So as the S tier fills out, it'll be low S tier. So this thing can 1-round burst with armor pen rounds. And honestly, I don't know that you want to suppress it, because if you do not suppress it, it will have more shots before it wears down. And it shoots in 3-round bursts only, or if you micro tap, you can shoot it like a single shot, but you have to like quickly mouse press and release, or quickly trigger press and release. And I would imagine a quick trigger press is harder, because a mouse press is just like a quick little tap, whereas like a trigger press is like you're pulling a mechanical thing. So you can micro tap with it. It will not one-shot headshot exosuits, and it can one-shot headshot some armors, like medium and maybe low heavy armor, but not like super heavy or exosuit armor. And a single burst with armor-piercing rounds does kill. The big problem with this thing is that it breaks quickly, because you only have like 50 to 70 bursts. Now, if you only use it, like I would carry this as like a 4th weapon, and that's actually what I'm gonna start doing. If you have like exosuit and you have like high carry weight, carry it as a 4th weapon. It's lightweight. Don't suppress it so it has more durability. Don't upgrade it too much, because it doesn't need most of its upgrades, and at base I'm fairly certain it will 1-tap Exos if you get all 3 bursts to hit. So go for like recoil and spread decrease, like a few upgrades, so you can keep its repair costs down. But if you want to go nuts and upgrade it fully and run it suppressed, you can, but you will lose. I would get the wear and tear upgrade on it and run it unsuppressed, because like I don't really know that suppressing weapons matters unless it's at like far ranges, because as soon as you get into combat, I feel like all the enemies just omnisciently know where you're at. All right, the Rhino, high S tier. It 1-taps with base ammo. The base ammo is cheap and easy to get throughout all stages of the game. There's several Rhinos. Same thing with APSBs. You can get, the ammo is cheap, and you can get both of these like as soon as you get into the garbage zone, and then you get access to all of the major areas, which is as soon as you enter garbage, you do. You can easily find these in different places. There's set locations with 100% durability ones, and you can run them right away. But the Rhino, with just a few upgrades, has the range of a sniper rifle. It one-shots literally every human except for bosses with a single headshot with base ammo, which means that you don't have to use armor-piercing rounds to get higher damage and to hit like one-shot breakpoints. You can throw, I think, a 2-times scope on it. I'm pretty sure it's 2 times. It's either 2 or 4 times. Fairly certain it's 2 times a scope on it that allows it to be like a mini sniper rifle, and it's just always good to have. It doesn't weigh that much. It has like 400 shots before it breaks. It actually has 450 durability. The APSB has 630 durability, and the downside of it is that it shoots 3-round bursts. So it really only has 210 unless you micro tap, which I would not expect controller players to be able to pull that off unless you change your fire to like a bumper or something. But it's just insanely good. It's very efficient. It's not like, in terms of like getting a kill with it, it's super easy. The scope makes it super easy to land headshots. When you zoom in, your scope doesn't sway for like a second, so you can zoom in, like quick scope, get an accurate headshot from cover, and it just gives you a cheap one-shot tool that is always good. It's good against mutants. The mutants that can be headshotted, it demolishes if you can land headshots on them, and it's just always good. There's no downside, and you can run the armor-piercing rounds against boss fights if you want, but it's just a really good weapon. The M10 Gordon. This seems usable. It shoots 10 damage bullets at... Hold on, it doesn't have 40% penetration, does it? According to the chart, it says 40% penetration. I don't know, I find this thing to be weak. It shoots like... It has like, what, 1,000 durability? Alright, so it has low weapon health. Alright, so there's some stats you need to be aware of when evaluating these weapons. So there is gun health and there's durability. Gun health is how much damage your weapon can take from when you get melee attacked by enemies, when you run into anomalies. And it also factors into durability. So as you shoot, your gun's health goes down, and then if you eat damage from melee attacks and from anomalies, your weapon gets damaged even further. So the Rhino and the APSB both have 3,000 health, which means that in endgame, I believe, I don't know that armor reduces the damage the weapons take. I would think it does, but it doesn't really logically make sense. If you know, definitely drop a comment. That's more like, I feel like when I run into anomalies in endgame, my weapons don't take that much damage, but the endgame weapons have higher health. But anyways, this weapon has low health, and at 1,000 rounds of durability, it's basically just like a good like rat killer or like dog killer. Like you would just use it to kill low level enemies, but Skiff's pistol already does that, and you could just bring the base ammo for Skiff's pistol. So I just don't think this really has a place. You can run it, but it's just not really worth it. The MP5 or the Viper 10, I'm sorry, Viper 10, Viper 5. So the Viper 5, it does have low HP and it has okay damage, but its main thing holding it back is its penetration. I would say it's like low, maybe high C tier. I would put it low B, high C. It falls off quickly. Its damage just becomes really low. It does have the 3-round burst, which is nice, but its penetration stat on veteran mode just really holds it back from being usable outside of like early game. Like against, if you're on like a group of bandits, it'll do fine against them because they have like almost no armor. But typically, it's just not worth running. You can run it early game. Even the variant Shaw's mate falls off because it has the exact same issue of low penetration. Pretty much if your gun has low penetration, it's not going to be very good. It's like a general rule of thumb. The Vector or the Integral A. So this weapon, I think, is actually like A tier. So in endgame, fully upgraded, switching it to 45 caliber, it doesn't one burst. Like there's 3 firing modes. There's automatic, there's 3-round burst, and there's single fire. For the Vector, 3-round burst is great when it one taps because it has super high accuracy. But the issue is with armor piercing rounds, when 3 rounds hit an exosuit, when the Vector is fully upgraded with the damage conversion, and I think it has a penetration upgrade, it just does not kill. So it takes like 4 rounds to kill. Now you can like shoot quickly, so you can shoot like 2, like you can shoot like that and shoot 2 quick bursts. But the issue is you will waste 2 bullets and also waste 2 durability. So some of the best weapons are just very efficient at using their firing modes to convert into kills against heavy armors, mutants, and exosuits. And in the end game, like in Pripyat, when you get there legitimately through the main quest, and in the point of no return, which is actually a pretty long, extensive firefight with like a series of bosses, you want durability, because otherwise you're going to have to be picking up weapons you might have not even used before. So you want like a few duplicates of your weapons, and you just want to, you know, be able to rely on them to one tap, ideally. Because the other thing too is like if you have to keep landing accurate attacks with your firearm, like an automatic or burst mode, you're going to be getting aim punched, which is when you get hit, your dude flinches, which makes sense because if I got shot, I'm sure I'd be like, oh shit. So when you're getting aim punched in these big firefights, you want to just like peek in one tap. You don't want to be exposed while you're like ADSing and shooting, you know, at someone and then eating damage and getting aim punched, because you also will lower your armor durability more. Like if you're running the Rhino and you peek and headshot, you'll minimize the damage taken, and you'll also have very efficient, you know, headshot to kill ratio. Like if I have to land multiple headshots, the weapon is just not as good. The bucket, or the, what did someone say? It's not the bucket, I just call it that now because it's funny to me. So this thing, it seems decent, but like it doesn't really have good upgrades. It can't one-tap Exos, and I don't think, so I'll just show you like what the Reddit thing shows. So it's right here. Let me zoom in maybe. Yeah, let's zoom in. All right, so it has decent, okay gun health, 23 damage, 40% penetration. I believe it has a slight penetration mod, and I don't think it has a damage mod. So it's not 23 damage headshots with armor piercing rounds will not kill an exosuit. And its efficiency, so efficiency is how much damage you get per ammo, like per repair. And the more you upgrade your gun, the worse this is. So you have to consider that when upgrading, because essentially your guns will become more expensive to run. But I just don't think it's that good. It's not bad. It's like the definition of B tier in my mind. I think it's like better. I think it's worse than Skiff's pistol, because Skiff's pistol is, funny enough, it's like similar in stats. Like if you're using AP rounds on both, this just has more range and base penetration, but this is like similar stats, so why would you even bring this if this exists? I think Skiff's pistol does kind of gatekeep some of these weaker weapons, but it seems fine. Alright, the Zuber 19. So this thing doesn't really have any huge damage upgrades or anything, so its base damage of 20 and its base armor penetration of 54% is not bad. Now, with this one, you would go full auto. It just has single and full auto mode. So you would just go for like 2 to 3 headshots to kill. And if you could get good with this thing, I could see it being low S tier with AP rounds. Like if it takes you 2 to 3 headshots to kill an Exo, if you peek and you just mow these enemies down, I could see that being valuable. Its base damage is 20 and its penetration is 54 at base. So the Vector's base damage, the reason why this is an A tier is because it can't kill in 3 shots, because its damage goes from 13 at base to 16 with the 45 mod. So it doesn't really get the high enough damage values to reliably like 2 to 3 tap, which this should be able to do. So, all right, so here's where we're at so far. All right, the Boomstick, definitely one of the worst weapons in the game. Its range is terrible. Its spread is terrible. With fully upgraded, it can barely kill things at point blank range. Like its effective range is like the Hole Maker, which is bad because that's just an attachment. So it's just not. You can get kills with it, but early game when you would be using it, Skiff's pistol can put in so much more work. It can one tap at good ranges in early game and it literally outclasses the shotgun. Now against like a mutant, it's okay, but it doesn't really have penetration and it's just kind of mid. Same thing with the TOZ. These are both just really bad weapons. Their damage is like the same as other shotguns or worse. Their range stat is super limiting, even when you do the rifled barrel upgrade for slugs, and they just can't kill anything meaningful. The reload takes too long. The switch to time for the TOZ is way longer than most other weapons, which is crazy. It takes a very long time to switch to it, and it's just not good. The M860 Cracker. I'm going to put this on low B tier because it still can one-tap Exos with slugs in endgame, but you have to be close. The main limiting factor is its range. It can't one-tap with buckshot against heavy armor because it lacks the penetration value, and its accuracy isn't that good, but it does have high readiness when fully upgraded, and you can switch to it really quickly. But that doesn't really matter much when you're not able to rapidly fire, because in a lot of these endgame and even late middle game firefights, there's like several enemies like behind cover that are like looking at you, just shooting at you the whole time. So like pump action can be okay, but it's like you have to keep like micro peeking or like leaning. I don't really like leaning because I play TF2, so I don't want to get into the habit of using leaning. But if you like, leaning obviously helps. It reduces your hitbox size, so it is good to shoot while leaning. SPSA, I think it deserves a spot in A tier. The only thing holding it back is its reload. It has pretty good stats. It can get its range up so that its slugs are meaningful, so that you can actually use it beyond like point blank or like 10 meters. And it does have good damage output. It can easily kill mutants early, which is nice. So like a bloodsucker jumps on you, you can unload, like 5 to 6 shots into it rapidly before it runs away, killing it very easily. It can do the same thing to burrs. It can do a similar thing to controllers, but you do have to be close to them. So it does have a lot of damage potential. The big problem with it, though, late game, is that there are 2 better options that significantly outclass it, that do everything it can do, but better, more or less. And it also doesn't have as much like range and damage as some of them. All right, the Saiga. Is this better than the Rhino? I guess, let's think about this. So let's look at its stats again. It is a really good weapon. Let's see, Saiga, here we go. So it has 450 shots before it breaks. I believe it has a wear and tear upgrade, which most weapons do. It has 140 base damage and 60% penetration, and you can upgrade it so that its range can be quite far. So this is a primary weapon, though. I think it's a little bit worse than the Rhino. I think these are both high S tier, but I think it's a little bit worse than the Rhino because it's a primary weapon that has 450 shots until it breaks, and it's semi-automatic and you can fire it very fast. So what can easily happen is if this is your mutant killing gun, you will unload tons of rounds into mutants. If you also use this for combat, you upgrade it a lot, you will then also be, spamming shots, and it will rapidly lose its durability. But it can, with good accuracy, be basically as good as the Rhino at one tapping heads. I don't think its range is going to be as good, and I think the Rhino has better penetration when upgraded. But it shoots faster than the Rhino. But the Rhino, like if I were to choose between these, I feel like this is overall better at just like basic combat because it's lighter weight, so I can carry it. Like, first of all, this is a sidearm. This is a primary weapon. This is a sidearm. I think this is like high S tier, and this is like not that far behind it. It's like right next to it. You could even argue they're tied if you want to. But I think that these are pretty similar in terms of like overall performance. There's like nuances, like they both have 450 shots. This fires those shots faster and is like generally going to be like better for dealing with groups, but this is a sidearm. This is like a sidearm. This is like a sniper rifle, and this is like a high impact semi-automatic rifle, more or less, at this point. But I think these are both like, I guess they're tied. So the Ram is a pump action shotgun that can shoot 2 shots before it pumps. It pumps quickly and it reloads 2 shells at a time. It does have higher base damage than the Saiga. The Saiga has 140, the Ram has 150, and it has 525 durability, while the Saiga has 450. Now, even though it's pump, you can rapidly fire 2 shots, and if you end up running Texas, which I'm not going to be evaluating in this tier list, but Texas, the unique, has 180 base damage and can 2-tap a lot of the endgame mutants with buckshot. Now, the nice thing about the Ram is similar to the Saiga. It's like it's more or less a semi-automatic shotgun. It can shoot really quickly. You can like shoot from the hip with the slugs to some degree, but definitely the buckshot. If you crouch with any shotgun, you tighten your spread. So what you can do is like before you push around a corner is crouch and jump, and you can actually be like very mobile. Like you can sprint, crouch, and jump, and do all these like crazy things to like maintain high, tight buckshot groupings, like clusters, I guess. And what you can do with this thing is easily kill most mutants. You can easily fight humans with it, and it has, as like a primary weapon, it has a little bit more durability, and because it's more controlled and not as like spammy as like the Ram or the SPSA, it's more like deliberate in how you use it. Now, it does have less like burst damage versus those weapons, but it lasts longer. I think it's like tied with the Saiga. I'll put it below it. I think it's like tied with the Saiga, and these are trade-offs. Like this one can put out more damage. This has higher base damage. It has better, I think it has better efficiency. Yeah, actually their efficiency is basically identical. It's like 26 efficiency on the Saiga, 27 on the Ram. But it has more shots before it breaks. And honestly, its fire rate is more than good enough to easily fight in big open firefights. The nice thing about both, though, is it allows you to like push and be more aggressive and like use cover. So as you reposition, enemies have to like see where you're peeking from, or where you're appearing at. If you're at the exact same position, they already know where you're at, so they're going to shoot you immediately. And there's like a slight time delay for when you peek a new position. They don't see you moving. So depending on how much cover there is, you can really take advantage of the terrain with shotguns and movement in general. This is true of all weapons, but shotguns you can hip fire with good like hit rates and one tapping. These both one tap Exos with buckshot, which is crazy. Honestly, shotguns and like the Rhino are like super efficient at killing these endgame enemies and just dealing with mutants. Against like heavy mutants, I think the Saiga is probably the best because of the clip, the magazine. So yeah, I think they're pretty even. There's trade-offs for both of them. Like there's pros and cons to them. Now, when you factor in Sledgehammer and Texas, Sledgehammer is a unique SPSA. I don't think there is a unique Saiga. It's the DLC one. I don't really know that it's necessarily better or higher damage. I think the DLC one's just a normal Saiga with mods. The Texas though, I think is a little bit better than the Saiga because it has 180 base damage, and it has a lot of like things already on it, so you don't have to pay as much to upgrade it. But it is in Pripyat, so if you can't get to Pripyat early in a future patch, then that'll, move that down. All right, on to assault rifles. Assault rifles, whew, man, I wanted a lot of these to be good, but unfortunately a lot of them are not. All right, so do we not have the AK-74U in this list? Not seeing it. All right, so for whatever reason, I don't see the AK-74U, which is this. All right, so the AK-74U, it's like an early game weapon that you should probably switch off. And the AK-74S is an early game weapon that's a little bit better. It has better attachments. I believe this one accepts a grenade launcher. So it just has like more potential than this. But they're both like, they're not one-tapping Exos. They're not great in endgame. Their efficiency is fine. It's not the best. Actually, it isn't even good at all. At 37% efficiency on the 74S, that's not terrible. For some reason, the one weapon isn't in there, but their penetration values, like the story with most early game weapons is their penetration values are too low, and the end game variants, like the end game weapons, just push through armor better, kill mutants easier, and they just use ammo more efficiently for, combat. So you shoot more shots, you wear out your gun more. If it takes more shots to kill, your gun's less efficient. And also, it's wasting more ammo. All right, the AR-416. So this thing is probably here. It's serviceable, but it falls off fast. It can get a grenade launcher, and the grenade launcher is good early game, but late game against Exos, it's really not that good. I mean, it's decent. It doesn't weigh that much, so you can throw it in your inventory. And what it can do is it can AoE damage exosuits without killing them. It shouldn't kill them in a single grenade. I was testing this on heavy armors, and it kills heavy armors, but this was before 1.1.2, so some of these values might have changed. But this weapon list I'm referring to is updated to 1.1.2. Okay. So, the AS Lavina. I got some pushback on this for in the previous tier list, but it's actually a terrible weapon. All right, let me explain why it's a terrible weapon. All right, so let's look at the stats. First, let's start with the stats. All right, so the AS Lavina. Weapon health is fine. Damage of 20 could be good. Penetration of 52%. You would think this could be good. It has no good upgrades that push its damage up. Maybe it has like an 8% increase in pen to get it to 60, but its damage is way too low. Its range is very limited, and it also uses the same ammo as the Rhino, but it will never one-tap Exos with any ammo type, period. In order to one-tap an Exo, you need quite high damage and 3 to 4 armor penetration. And this thing, even though it has a built-in suppressor, it just doesn't perform as a middle game. It'll be fine, but it's also using ammo that's not common. So all right, here's the problems with it. Uncommon ammo that other weapons use significantly better and convert single shots into kills in a lot of cases. It has very limited range. It has bad upgrades. And within the assault rifle category, there are significantly better options that can be suppressed that do everything this can do, but better. So I think it's actually just C tier. It's usable, but there's at the point in the game when you get this, there's really no reason to run it at all. It doesn't really help you with anything. All right, the G36, I'm sorry, the GP30, this is a G36, right? Or GP36, whatever. The GP37C. This weapon, it has some interesting things going on. I do have to mention the Holemaker was seemingly nerfed. So the Holemaker used to inherent upgrade stats, but it doesn't anymore. And those upgrade stats could improve its penetration and spread and things, which would made it better. But it was recently basically nerfed in an update that changed it so it doesn't inherit those stats. So that also nerfs the weapons, potentially nerfs the weapons that use it. But it basically takes one super clean point blank headshot, meaning all pellets hit at point blank to Holmake kill, or it takes 2 at kind of super close range where you're 5 to 7 meters, which is still valuable. It still doesn't damage your gun, which is nice. And it can still be used on mutants. It can still be good against bloodsuckers. It can still be used on other mutants. It's still basically it's almost like a Saiga boomstick attached to your weapon. like the Saiga like magazine and the boomstick range. But the G36, or the GP37, 16 base damage, doesn't really have damage increase. With a 3-round burst with armor penetration rounds, because it does have 3-round burst, it's not killing the exosuits, and also it'll take 2 3-round bursts, or yeah, 2 3-round bursts to do that. So it's kind of similar to the Vector. I would say it's like low A tier, because you still can put the Holemaker on it, which is good because it allows you to have an infinite durability shotgun that can be used on lesser mutants, lightly armored to medium armored, and one-tap those easily. And then it can one-tap Exos, which you need to be like right on top of them, which can be difficult. But against exosuits, if there's like 1 or 2 around the corner and you have like 4 to 5 like shells loaded, you can easily take them out. And if you hit them in the head, it'll stagger them. So you can basically get like a high efficiency weapon that uses buckshot, which is actually really good because it conserves on repair costs, as well as gives your weapon, like if you find buckshot as you're going, it just like refuels. Like it takes 2 ammo types, which is huge for like efficiency and for like scavenging. So that's actually a huge advantage. But endgame, it does have the 3-round burst, so 2 bursts can kill an Exo with armor piercing, which isn't terrible. So it does have that, but it's just decent. It's just like, it's definitely better than these, that's for sure. The Fora. So the Fora has 15 base damage. Now the Decider has 20. That's, if we consider that, I also was testing that in endgame. It wasn't really putting out too much extra work. But the penetration is not the best. You see, yeah, the penetration on the Fora is 40%, and I think you can get a slight upgrade. Most guns can get a slight penetration upgrade, and a few guns can get a damage increase on caliber change. There's not too many. Typically, you can get like an extra few percentage penetration, and like very few guns have damage upgrade. That's something to consider. But the Fora is, I would say it's like high B tier. It doesn't really have a future in endgame. Now, you could use it in endgame, but there's just better things to use. I mean, it shoots decent ammo. It doesn't really have like a ton of good attachments that are crazy. There's nothing really to say about it, then it's just outclassed by like other things. The Grom, so the Grom S14, this shoots the pistol ammo, but it has a grenade launcher attached. But the grenade launcher could be better. Like for early and middle game, the Grom is fine. I would put it like here. It's not terrible. It's not good though. Against Exos, it's not really good at all, to be honest. But all right, so we're back to the Karad. So the Karad had interesting breakpoints. I ran it like the entire playthrough, using it off and on while testing other weapons, like in between testing other weapons. And against exosuits, it takes, I think, like 3 shots to kill. It doesn't have a 3-round burst though. If it had a 3-round burst, this thing would be like easy S tier. I kind of want to put it in high A. So like against Exos, it's like super point blank Holemaker headshot, or, you know, 3 armor piercing round headshots, which if you're in fully automatic and you fire in bursts manually and you get used to doing that, it could still be really good. But the issue is range, right? Like if I want a one-shot exosuit at range, some of these things can easily do that, others can't. Like this, if I have to land multiple headshots at range, that's a different story. At close range, these things are really good at mowing things down. Same thing with the Vector. But once we get into those middle, like those endgame fights where there's like long range enemies and you need something to reach out and headshot them and just get rid of them, like other things just completely outclass, you know, the automatic weapons that can't do that. I do think it's either high A or low S. I think it's high A. I'll move it down to high A. Because it can't one-tap, well, it's not that it can't one-tap Exos. It can't really engage Exos effectively at range, because like the Vector can a little bit better, but this has the Holemaker, and the Holemaker is still really good for just like efficiency and fighting and having extra ammo types. Now the crazy, actually, let's put it in low S. All right, so, all right. Well, let me cover the Dnipro, and then I'll explain why. All right, the Dnipro. I had a lot of pushback on this, But I'm glad I tested it. I'm gonna still do video guides on all of these weapons because I have run all of them this time around. In my first playthrough, I used all of them maybe briefly. The RAM, I think I just assumed it had like a magazine. I was wrong about that, so my bad on that. But the Dnipro, someone said that on Veteran can one tap Exos with the caliber change, the penetration mod, and armor piercing rounds. I tested it last night. It cannot. It takes 2 to 3 shots to kill them at point blank. So full health exosuits. I had the 7.62 Dnipro mod. I was using armor penetration rounds, and I was using the other blueprints for the armor penetration mod increase. It does not one tap Exos. It does not have underbarrel attachment. Honestly, I don't think it's that good. I think it's like high B, low A. I'll explain, like, I'll go into more detail because, like, and I'll compare it directly to the other assault rifles. I think it's like high B, maybe. All right, here's why. Okay, high upgrade costs. 2 blueprints for it to reach its maximum potential. Higher base value than these other weapons. If you change its caliber, it changes it to 7.62 by 39. I googled how to get more 7.62 by 39. The only thing I could find is that someone said it's drop and loot only. And I'm sure there is a merchant that sells it. Definitely drop a comment as to which merchant sells it. But I tried, like every merchant, I tried reloading, or not reloading, doing the bed, like sleeping to reset the inventory. And if you do the caliber change, it not only doesn't one-tap Exos, which is what you would hope it would do, but you are now shooting the LMG ammo that seems to be really hard to find. If there is a store that sells it, all those other things still, in my mind, put this in B tier. Because it doesn't have any huge thing, it doesn't really one-tap meaningful threats. Its best use case is that it's just like a better Fora. No underbarrel attachments. It does have good durability per shot, but because it doesn't one tap, like 2 tapping at range is a pain because you're getting aim punched. So like if I'm getting aim punched, that's just terrible. All right, so versus the GP37, 3-round burst, underbarrel attachment hole maker, which allows for fighting things at close range, conserving primary ammo, using buckshots to deal really good damage. Magazine, it's magazine fed infinite durability mini Saiga attached to your gun. It turns out it's really good. Same thing with the Quran. Also cannot be suppressed. Can be, I think this can be suppressed. Definitely can be suppressed. Cannot be suppressed. Similar, 3-shot AP rounds kill Exos, 2 less recoil, higher fire rate. Hole maker, also grenade launcher. Hole maker and grenade launcher, just hole maker, neither. Suppressible, maybe suppressible, not suppressible. Similar ammo efficiency to the Dnipro. It just outclasses it. Lower weapon value, doesn't need any upgrades to be good, doesn't need the caliber change, but you can do it for durability. It literally just outclasses this. In terms of raw damage, the Dnipro has it beat. But once I'm going to be doing these videos shortly after because I'm in endgame now on my second playthrough. Both of these are upgraded, and I was doing damage tests against exosuits from full health, and neither can one-tap them. So this has no edge over these other weapons. So I think it's just decent. It's not bad, but it's not it's not that good, dude. It's not like kill. It's definitely better than like the Fora, objectively. It's better against mutants, but against humans, they actually have similar performance. All right, SVDM2. So 70 base damage, good. 40% penetration, good. Range 4, also good. So this thing is actually decent, and you can basically use this. I'm fairly certain this will one-tap an Exo. It definitely will with AP rounds. But does that make it S tier? This and its older brother, the SVU, have like these fixed scopes. So if you really like the scopes they use, these are great. But if you want to like change scopes out, you can't, which does suck. I wish you could change out the scopes. The M701, I don't think needs a scope change. It's like the perfect scope. It's like perfect zoom level, really good sight picture. It doesn't have like stuff on the edges. Like some of these scopes have like that eye mount or that iPad thing. Not like the Apple product, but like that thing that you could press against your eye or whatever. It's just like this like kind of cushiony thing that just obstructs your view. I don't like that with some of these like Slavic scopes, I guess we'll call it. But it seems good. I would say this is like A tier. Let me know if this one taps Exos at base with base ammo. It definitely does with AP rounds. 70 base damage is a lot of damage. That's killing things for sure. That is absolutely dropping exosuits. But with it, I'm pretty sure it would one tap. It's like right. I feel like it's like right on the threshold, like 40% penetration, but 70 damage. It's like right there. So it probably does with base ammo. But if not, it still one taps, and it's a good sniper rifle. It's decent, semi-automatic. It can be good against mutants too. But also, actually, hold on. Its durability is 270. Oh right. That's the problem I had with it. So 270 shots until it breaks. Wang. Low A tier. So why is that a problem? So semi-automatic, 270 shots. At like 130 shots, you're running into jamming issues. Not that good, honestly. The stats are there. Actually, I'm gonna put this in B tier for that alone. Because like think about long firefights in endgame, right? 130 shots, you'll easily hit that. Especially if you go. I would not use this on mutants then. I'm forgetting its durability. Let's put this above, like around the Dnipro, kind of around there. All right, another weapon I got a lot of pushback on, which is fine. You know, if I'm wrong on things, definitely let me know. Like if the math is on your side, I would prefer to know, actually. Like if I'm just wrong about numbers or stats or mechanics, definitely say something. But all right, so wait, where is it? It's AS Lavina, right? It's not in here. Where is it? Or is it under assault rifles, maybe? No, it's just missing. That's weird. Yeah, it's missing from this list. I swear. Oh no, here it is. It is under assault rifles. All right, so the AS Lavina. I guess this. Oh my god, did I call this the Vintar? I'm sorry, I mixed those two up because they look exactly the same. Sorry, the first one is the AS Lavina. If I got that wrong, where is it? C tier. This is the AS Lavina. If I called that the Vintar, my bad. The VS Vintar. So 35 base damage, 40% penetration. The upgrades, I think, can get slight penetration, but no damage increase. Does not one-shot headshots with base rounds. It might one-shot headshot with AP rounds. It has 1200 durability, which is pretty good. 40% penetration with AP rounds, 35 damage. I swear I tested this with AP rounds. I'm fairly certain I did, and it wasn't one-tapping Exos, but if that's wrong, definitely let me know, because that obviously changes its tiering, but it can shoot a lot of shots before it breaks. It shoots 9x39, which is the same ammo as the Rhino, but I would say it's like here. It's not bad. It's serviceable. If it one-taps Exos, it goes here, but I'm pretty sure I just tested this last night with AP rounds and normal rounds, and neither was one tapping. So 2 tapping, I'm fairly certain that's right. But if it's not, it moves up to ARS. Okay, the Mark 1. So the Mark 1 is interesting. It's actually kind of weird because it only has 1500 weapon health. It still is good though. 450 shots until it breaks, 55 base damage. Does not one-tap Exos with base ammo, but does with armor penetrating rounds. 308 is not. You can make money easily in the game. I wasn't in my second run because I was literally upgrading like every weapon I got, which burned all my cash, and I saved all my artifacts, all my armor sets, because I'm going to be doing armor tier list and then artifact tier list after I play for a little bit more. And so for me, like running, if you're playing normally, you can get a bunch of 308 rounds. So 450 shots is fine. Now the nice thing about this is if they never patch the getting into Pripyat early, like jump, you can get a suppressor on this thing, and it's basically one of the few. It's basically a long range sniper rifle that's suppressed, that's semi-automatic, which is unique because I'm pretty sure like the SVU and the SVD cannot be suppressed. So the same thing with the M701, it can be, but it's not semi-automatic. So it has this like unique niche of being the only suppressible one-tap exosuit gun with AP rounds. I do think it's S tier. I think it deserves S tier. I think it's like here. Like its gun health is low, but I didn't find it breaking from hitting anomalies. Maybe I'm just better at avoiding anomalies on my second run. But 450 shots until it breaks and it one taps exosuits is pretty crazy. Now it's not 450 shots when it's suppressed. That reduces the wear, and when you're shooting AP rounds, that reduces the wear. So maybe it's closer to like 300, but it's like a sniper rifle that's semi-automatic. So even when it's suppressed and you're shooting AP rounds, it still has higher effective durability than the SVD and the SVU. But it does not one tap with base ammo, which the SVD might and the SVU definitely does. Okay, M701 Super. How good is it? So, after my first run, like when the economy was bad and repair costs were high, like before all the patches that changed that, it was hard to run, right? Well, a lot of these guns were. A lot of things were hard to run because you're just burning through your cash. But in my second run, I think this is like the best, possibly, well, not the best weapon in the game. It's one of the best weapons in the game. It's definitely high S tier. Is it better than the Saiga? So before the Holemaker was nerfed by, removing the upgrades to it, which did kill its spread and its penetration a little bit, because you could get like certain upgrades on certain weapons to improve those. I actually think the Holemaker might need a slight buff now, because it almost feels too weak. Because it's like an endgame attachment that only is accepted by 3 weapons. So I feel like it's fine if they buffed its damage and penetration a little bit. And it also shouldn't damage the weapons, because it's a separate weapon system that's just firing, so I don't see why it would damage the primary weapon it's attached to. But I do think that the grenade launcher and the RPG need buffed right now. But is it better than the Rhino? I think it is. I want to say this is like pretty close to the best weapon in the game. All right, so here's why I think that. Let's look at its stats before I even say anything. All right, so its stats. High weapon health, 450 shots until it breaks, base damage of 160, base penetration of 60. Its fire rate, it says 29 RPM, so 29 rounds per minute. It cycles a little bit faster than the Gauss gun fires, so you can see here the Gauss gun has 500 base damage and shoots a little bit slower. But essentially what this thing is good at is killing everything. It can one-tap cat mutants on headshot. It can one-tap exosuits with base ammo. It has good damage against bosses, especially like if you're fighting like a burr, you can like peek and shoot it from super far away and easily deal with it that way. Like that's like the easiest way to fight a burr, is just to like hit it outside of its effective range. So, all right, it is suppressible, which means that it is one of the few, if not like this and the Mark I, are like the 2 high damage suppressible weapons that can attack enemies at very far ranges, which is a unique feature of these weapons, and it allows you to be a long range stealth sniper. So that's one of the huge advantages. Killing enemies outside of combat when they can't fight you back. It's suppressible, high base damage. It has a good enough fire rate that even at like close range and point blank, if you like peek and shoot, you can just like peek, one tap an exo and go back to hiding. So you actually get like the full durability, unlike some of these other weapons. So similar to the Rhino. Both of these have the 450 shots. You'll actually get that if you don't run it suppressed. If you run it suppressed, you get 15% more wear, I believe, but it does also increase your range slightly, but on this, it doesn't really matter. Also, the other thing too is you have the Holemaker attachment, which allows you to deal with things at close range and conserve durability. So even if it takes you like a body shot and a headshot with the Holemaker to kill an exo, as of the one patch that changes the Holemaker's attributes, it still is giving you a kill for 0 durability and allowing you to pick up shotgun ammo or just have shotgun ammo on you. And you can still use the Holemaker to kill bloodsuckers. 3 clean Holemaker headshots kills a bloodsucker. 4 Holemaker body shots kills a bloodsucker. It reloads 4 at a time. Or it's like 4+1, so you can have 4 loaded clean. Or if you have 1 in already, it'll put 4 in, you'll have 5 total. So it has that. It kills with base ammo. Very few guns one tap with base ammo, and all of them are high S tier. So, like in a single shot, the APS needs armor piercing, this needs armor piercing, this needs armor piercing, this needs armor piercing. So, like, these are like in a league of their own in high S tier, in my humble opinion. All right, and then we have the SVU. Weirdly, only 270 durability, but it has really good stats. It has 60% penetration, 80 damage, does really good range, does really good drop off, which is actually, I don't really know the difference. Oh, but maybe, I think but never mind. Drop off is bullet drop, range is damage drop off. Okay, I was about to say, like, those seem like the same thing, but the bullet drop off is when the bullet starts arcing. So yeah. All right, so 270 durability. I think it's here. If it had higher durability, easy high S tier because of its damage. It is limited to one scope, and I do not think it is suppressible though. So some things to consider. All right, the Gauss gun. This has changed a lot. So the reason I put the Gauss gun low in the previous tier list video is it doesn't really have any, it literally has no upgrades. It's very high value, so when you repair it, it's expensive. So if you were to run it, it's, all right, so expensive rare ammo, expensive to run it. It's kind of hard to get unless you use like the Pripyat thing. Like you can get an M701 Super, you can just go to certain vendors. Like if you go to the cement factory or whatever and just talk to the vendor, he'll have an M701 Super you can buy. So even if they get rid of like early Pripyat jump, you can just get it from that. You can get it from the arena glitch. If they get rid of that, you can still buy it from certain vendors. So you can always get one early. Whereas with the Gauss gun, this is probably going to be harder and harder to get early. But I think the Gauss gun deserves a place in high S tier. Is it better than these though? I don't think so. All right, so here's what the Gauss gun does now. 500 damage, which is great against it's great against everything, but it's especially good against mutants. It one-shots Burrs, Deer, or Elk, or Moose, or whatever the hell it is. Oh, that's called Deer. Burrs, Deer, Controllers. It one-shots Poltergeists. It one-shots Pseudo-Dogs. From my testing, I killed a Pseudo-Giant in 5 headshots. Maybe that one was damaged. I don't think so, but if Pseudo-Giants have a headshot multiplier now, great. Chimera is probably like 5 to 10 shots, but it kills these mutants. It kills most mutants in a single shot, like all the lesser ones. And the 2 boss types it kills in significantly fewer shots than other weapon systems. So this is just basically the best mutant killing thing in the game. It also can one-shot body shot humans, and it has a similar fire rate to the M701 Super, but it only has 300 shots until it breaks. It has a lower fire rate than M701 Super. All right, so here's how I view this gun. It's the best mutant killing tool in the game now, but it is still limited by its cost and by if you want to get into Pripyat early to grab one. There might be other locations where they drop, but I think the devs are like consciously working on preventing that from being a thing. So depending on how that plays out with updates, it may or may not be good in that way. Like you may not be able to get one for a very long time in a normal playthrough. So some things to consider. Against humans, it's basically identical to M701 Super, except this can't one-tap on the body unless you use AP rounds, whereas with this, it can, like at all times. And the batteries, you can just buy them. If you get to Pripyat early, you can buy as many batteries as you need. Just buy them, sleep, do some weapon farms, artifact farms, whatever you gotta do. But it does break faster than M701 Super. It has more expensive ammo. It's more expensive to run. It's harder to get one. Against mutants, it is better than the M701 Super, even with the Hole Maker. But the M701 Super is more efficient economically, has a slightly faster fire rate, and it's suppressible. So it has some advantages over this that this can't really deal with. So I would bring... Well, there is another issue, too. Its weight. I'll just show you the stats. Its weight is 7 kilograms, which is a little bit heavier than everything else. So if you were just to carry this around just for killing mutants, that's like a few guns worth of loot that you're no longer getting. So it does hurt your economy potentially. But if you're doing artifact runs, that's a non-issue. But it does have really high weapon health. It is a really good gun. It's S tier now. Before, it just had slightly higher damage than M701 and better, like 20% more penetration. But this could run AP rounds to have the same penetration. So it's basically like a side grade that was worse if it shot slower. But now it actually has a purpose of one-tapping some pretty dangerous mutants and trivializing a lot of fights. So you could like mainline this as like a primary weapon. You can use it against humans, it's not bad. Just consider that its ammo and its repair costs are high, and they're significantly higher than the M701 or the Rhino, both of which kind of perform a similar, like, you know, sniper role. All right. So the RPM 74. This thing, I don't know about this thing. It seems like it's just like B tier. I don't know. It seems like it's like here. Based on its stats and the fact that, as far as I know, you can't really just buy the ammo for it. If that's wrong, just type a comment out and let me know. But it seems like it's just decent. It doesn't have any like huge upgrades that make me excited to use it. And it doesn't have any interesting features. Like, it's not suppressible, doesn't have attachments. You can throw scopes on it, but I don't know. It's damage of 20. It's not really blowing, like 20 damage and 50% penetration is not bad. But interestingly, it does have bad efficiency. It has efficiency of 14%. I don't really see the point in running this. It's also heavy, 7.5 kilograms. I would just sell these, personally. I think that the assault rifles are better. Like, this has like 18 damage base, and I think this is 20 damage base. And these should outclass this in combat. They're also more controllable, better recoil. Easier to get ammo, that's a factor too. The ammo is not that easy to get. Okay, as far as I know about the RPG, I don't think it's in this list. Let me see. Does he have it? Ideally, we would like to see it. I still think I didn't test it as of... Oh, no, I did. I shot mutants with it, though. I shot pseudo giants with it. As far as I know, it's still bad. All right, so unless they patched it against humans, it doesn't really kill them. Actually, someone said it does, but I haven't tested it yet. Like, as of, like, this patch came out like yesterday, right? So it's like I'd have to go find one, shoot it on some humans. But if it one-shots a group of humans, including Exos, definitely low B tier, because like you're carrying around this heavy thing just to do something grenades can do. It does it instantly though, but it's like a whole weapon system. Like, unless this thing, like, almost, if this thing could 2-shot or 3-shot like pseudo giants, I'd put it in A tier. But until then, I don't think it does that much damage, because you would want it to be like an anti-armor thing, considering the giants, or like the heavier mutants armor, like tanks, you know, anti-armor. But it just seems to be like a way too high cost, high weight grenade launch, or grenade launcher or grenade. You just throw grenades, get similar results. They don't have instant explosion like the grenades don't, but the enemies don't move too much, and especially if they're in close quarters, you can throw grenades around corners and catch them easily. So I just don't think it's very good right now. But here's where I think the weapons are. If you think any of these are wrong and you have the math, definitely let me know. Like, if I'm wrong on breakpoints, but I'm fairly certain I'm good this time around. So, all right. Definitely like and subscribe if you enjoyed this or found this useful, and I will see you in the next one. Peace.